A unanimous Supreme Court decision just changed retirement law for every single American, and most people will never hear about it until it's too late. Think about that for a second. A ruling this massive, this sweeping, and it's flying completely under the radar. Whether you're 30 years from retirement or already living on a fixed income right now, this decision reaches directly into your financial future and reshapes it in ways nobody saw coming. So let me ask you something that cuts right to the heart of this. Imagine you've spent 20, maybe 30 years carefully building your retirement plan, your pension formula, your 401k strategy, the state you chose to live in, all based on the laws as they existed when you made those decisions. Now imagine your state government just walks in one day and changes those rules retroactively, wiping out thousands of dollars you were counting on. Could they actually do that? The highest court in the land just answered that question, and their answer was a crystal clear, resounding no. Today, we're breaking down exactly how this one ruling creates a brand new financial shield for millions of Americans, and more importantly, what you need to do right now to make sure it protects you. Let's start with what makes this ruling so extraordinary. This was not some narrow, controversial 5-4 split decision. This was 9-0. Every single justice, from across the entire ideological spectrum, was in complete agreement. And when that happens in the legal world, it's a massive deal. It creates binding nationwide precedent and establishes a constitutional standard that every state in this country must follow from this day forward. Here's how dramatically the power has shifted. Before this ruling, states could essentially do whatever they wanted with retirement laws. They could change tax treatments, slash pension formulas, and if you didn't like it, the burden was entirely on you to hire a lawyer and fight an uphill battle against your own government. After this ruling, that entire dynamic has flipped. States now face a strict constitutional test, and the burden of proof is on them to justify any change they want to make. That is a seismic shift. The court built this entire decision around what they called fundamental reliance interests. Now, I know that sounds like legal jargon, but the idea behind it is incredibly simple, and frankly, it's powerful. When you make major long-term financial decisions, how much to save, where to retire, when to stop working, based on the laws that are currently on the books, you create a reliance interest. And the government now has a constitutional duty to respect it. In plain language, the Supreme Court said states cannot pull the rug out from under you. When you planned your retirement around your state's laws, you entered into an unspoken agreement. This ruling says the state has to honor its end of that bargain. They cannot rewrite the contract after you've already held up your side for decades. So who specifically does this protect? The reach of this ruling is incredibly broad, but 4 groups benefit the most immediately. State and local government employees, teachers, firefighters, police officers, city workers, retirees who relocated specifically to take advantage of a state's tax benefits, current workers saving in 401ks and similar retirement accounts, and a group most people aren't even thinking about, Social Security recipients living in the 13 states that currently tax those benefits. Let me make this concrete for you. Say you spent years building toward retirement, sold your home, uprooted your life, and moved to Florida or Texas specifically because that state promised not to tax your pension income. You made a massive, life-altering decision based on that law. Then a few years later, the legislature decides to slap a 5% tax on pension income. Before this ruling, you were probably out of luck. Now, you have a powerful constitutional argument that the state is violating your reliance interests. That is real, tangible protection. For public employees, this is equally huge. States facing budget shortfalls have historically used pension obligations as their personal piggy bank, cutting cost of living adjustments, altering benefit formulas, raising the retirement age. This ruling draws a hard line. If you were hired under a specific pension formula and you've been paying into that system for years based on that promise, your state cannot unilaterally rewrite the deal. Your years of service were based on the original agreement, and the court says that agreement matters. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The court didn't just state a principle. They created a specific legal test that every state must now pass before changing retirement laws. They call it the Reliance Impact Analysis, and it sets an extremely high bar. 3 hurdles every state must now clear. First, did people actually rely on the old law when making retirement decisions? For most retirees and workers, the answer is obviously yes. Second, does the new law cause material financial harm? If it costs you money, that's another yes. Third, and this is the one that changes everything, does the state have a reason so compelling that it justifies that harm? A budget shortfall alone? That's probably not going to cut it anymore. This is the single most important takeaway from everything we're covering today. Before, if you wanted to challenge a state change, you had to sue and prove the harm yourself. Now, the presumption is in your favor. The state has to prove to you and to the courts that what they're doing is justified despite the damage it causes. That is power moving from the government directly to the individual. Understanding the ruling is one thing. Knowing what to do about it is what actually protects your money. So let's talk action steps. 3 things you should do right now. Document, consult, and review. First, document everything. Go to your state's Department of Revenue website today. Find the page explaining how retirement income is taxed. Print it, save it as a PDF, screenshot it. Do the same for your pension enrollment documents, your 401k statements, any official communications. Every single one of these documents is now constitutionally relevant evidence of your reliance. This is your proof of what the law was when you built your plan. Second, consult a financial professional who understands this ruling and can translate it into a concrete strategy for your specific situation. This isn't just a legal development, it's a financial planning tool, and you need someone who can help you use it. Third, if you're a public employee, review your plan documents carefully right now. Look for any recent or proposed changes to your benefits. Some of those changes may now be unconstitutional, and you deserve to know that. Now, I want to be straight with you. This ruling is a landmark victory, but it is not the end of the story. State governments that have relied on the ability to modify retirement obligations to balance their budgets are scrambling right now. Their lawyers are already in meetings figuring out how to test the boundaries of this decision. Watch for grandfather clauses that apply cuts only to new hires. Watch for changes phased in slowly over a decade, hoping courts see them as less harmful. And watch for states that simply pass aggressive laws and dare you to sue. Knowing these tactics exist is the first step to defending against them. In the wake of this ruling, what you know about your state's legislative calendar and what proposals are being debated is no longer just interesting. It is part of your retirement strategy. For decades, you've treated your retirement plan like a promise, a commitment backed by years of hard work and careful planning. The Supreme Court has now told every state in this country that they need to treat it like a promise too. The real question is whether your state knows it has to keep it. Subscribe so you don't miss how this plays out. Share this with someone whose retirement is on the line, and drop a comment below. Tell me your state and your biggest retirement concern right now. Your voice shapes what we cover next, and this conversation is just getting started.